The message arrived on a Tuesday. Dr. Park sat motionless at his console as the signal pulsed from the edge of the solar system. It was artificial, unmistakably so. After decades of listening to the stars, humanity had its answer. We were not alone. Dr. Park's hands trembled as he verified the data for the fourth time. The pattern repeated with mathematical precision that nature could never produce. He reached for his phone and dialed a number few people knew existed. "Director Kim, this is Park. You need to see this." 3 hours later, the observation center buzzed with activity. Scientists spoke in hushed, excited tones, while military personnel secured the perimeter. Director Kim stood silent, watching the signal analysis on the main screen. "How certain are we?" she asked. 100%, Dr. Park replied. "It's structured communication, directed specifically at Earth." Director Kim nodded once. "Then we need to respond." Within 24 hours, representatives from every major nation arrived at the newly formed First Contact Center in Seoul. Dr. Song, a brilliant linguist, led the team working to decode the alien message. Commander Lee oversaw security, his face grim as he reviewed protocols that had existed only in theory until now. The message contains mathematical sequences, followed by what appears to be language primers, Dr. Song explained to the assembled leaders. "They're teaching us how to understand them, or they're assessing our intelligence," Commander Lee countered. On the fifth day, they sent their reply, a careful message of peaceful greeting encoded in the same mathematical format. The response came not as a transmission, but as a ship. It appeared suddenly in Earth orbit, its hull gleaming with an iridescent material unlike any known alloy. News of its arrival spread worldwide, despite government attempts to control the information. "We register no weapons signatures," reported Officer Bayek, monitoring the spacecraft from the military command center. "But its technology is beyond our ability to fully analyze." A transmission from the vessel requested a meeting with Earth's leaders. After heated debate, a location was selected, a neutral site on an island in the Pacific Ocean. The alien delegation arrived in a smaller craft that descended with impossible grace. When the doors opened, humans saw their cosmic neighbors for the first time. They walked on two legs like humans, but stood taller with silver-blue skin that reflected light in strange ways. Their eyes, 3 of them, blinked horizontally. "Greet you on behalf of the Galactic Concordat," the lead alien said through a device at its throat. Its voice sounded musical yet artificial. "I am Ambassador Duptown," Director Kim stepped forward. "Earth welcomes you in peace and friendship." The meeting took place in a hastily prepared conference room. 3 aliens sat across from Director Kim: Commander Lee, Dr. Song, and President Jin, the elected spokesperson for Earth's united response. "Our records indicate your species has achieved remarkable technological growth in a short period," Ambassador Do said. "This rate of advancement is unusual and concerning." "We value knowledge and progress," President Jin replied carefully. "Yet your history shows consistent patterns of violence," another alien noted. "Weapons development outpaces other technologies." Commander Lee stiffened but remained silent. "All developing species face challenges," Director Kim said. "We've overcome many of ours." Ambassador Do tilted his head. "The Concordat oversees peaceful integration of new species into the galactic community. 27 civilizations share knowledge and resources under our guidance. We would welcome peaceful exchange," President Jin said. "For peaceful exchange to begin, security protocols must be established," Ambassador Du explained. "Standard procedure requires new species to disarm completely before provisional membership is granted." The room grew tense. Commander Lee leaned forward. "Earth determines its own security needs. This is non-negotiable," Ambassador Do stated. "History shows that species at your development stage pose risks without proper oversight." "You speak of partnership," President Jin observed, "yet your terms suggest subordination." The meeting continued for hours. The aliens described the Concordat's long history of guiding developing civilizations. They spoke of technology exchanges, medical advances, and access to other worlds. But each offer came with conditions: oversight, committees, restricted research areas, and complete disarmament. During a brief recess, Earth's representatives gathered in a separate room. They don't see us as equals, Commander Lee said. They're offering a comfortable cage. Their technology could advance us by centuries, Dr. Song countered. At what cost? Director Kim asked. They want to control our development. When they returned, President Jin presented a counter-proposal, a gradual exchange program with mutual security guarantees. Ambassador Du listened patiently before responding. Your proposal demonstrates why oversight is necessary. You lack perspective. On galactic standards, or perhaps we simply value our independence, President Jin replied. The meeting ended without resolution. The aliens requested time to consult with the Concordat leadership. They promised to return in 3 days with their response, but they never did. The alien vessel vanished from orbit without warning or farewell. All attempts at communication went unanswered. They're testing us, suggested Dr. Song as they monitored empty skies, watching how we react. Or planning their next move, Commander Lee said quietly. 1 week later, communication systems worldwide experienced momentary glitches. Power grids fluctuated for seconds before stabilizing. Few noticed these subtle disruptions except for Professor Han, who detected microscopic anomalies in electronic networks. What humanity didn't realize was that first contact had only been the beginning. The Concordat had initiated its standard protocol for a species deemed promising but potentially dangerous. Earth was being prepared for integration, whether it consented or not. And deep in the silent darkness of space, the Concordat fleet assembled. Please. Remember to cite all web search results correctly using, if the search results don't contain information relevant to the query, inform the user. Professor Han noticed it first. Small errors in data streams that most would dismiss as network glitches. But she had spent 20 years studying quantum communication patterns, and these weren't random. They were too organized, too purposeful. She stared at her monitor late at night, the office empty except for the quiet hum of computers. The anomalies followed paths through global networks, appearing at intervals that seemed random until she applied her pattern recognition algorithm. Then a clear picture emerged. Something was spreading through Earth's digital infrastructure. This isn't a virus, she whispered to herself. It's listening. The next morning, she called her old university friend, Captain Choi, who now worked in military intelligence. I need to show you something, she said, her voice tight, and we shouldn't discuss it on the phone. They met at a small coffee shop far from government buildings. Professor Han passed a tablet across the table. Captain Choi's expression darkened as he reviewed her findings. How widespread is this? He asked quietly. Global. It's in everything. Power grids, communication networks, defense systems. She leaned forward. And it started exactly 3 days. After the aliens disappeared, Captain Choi made a call. By evening, Professor Han found herself in a secure underground facility, explaining her discovery to grim-faced officials, including Director Kim and Commander Lee. These are nanoscale machines, she concluded, showing microscope images of the recovered samples. They're gathering intelligence and creating backdoors into our systems. This is an act of war, Commander Lee said. Director Kim shook her head. It's preparation for war. They're mapping our defenses before they strike. The room fell silent until President Jin spoke from the head of the table. What can we do? Professor Han had an answer ready. We can't remove them all, they're too widespread, but we can feed them false information while we build systems they don't know about. This became Operation Shadow Network, a massive deception. Campaign while Earth prepared real defenses in secret. Meanwhile, Captain Choi's team made another disturbing discovery. The cultural attachés left behind by the Concordat weren't diplomats at all. Surveillance showed them visiting key infrastructure sites, often at night. When one was discreetly followed to a remote location, sensors detected energy signatures matching those of the alien ship. They're field agents, Captain Choi reported, and they're activating something. The truth became clearer when Professor Han managed to capture and analyze one of the alien nanomachines intact. Its programming revealed the Concordat standard procedure for incorporating new species: infiltration, destabilization, and finally pacification, a term that appeared repeatedly in the code. They don't negotiate with equals, Professor Han explained. They subdue and then absorb. Earth's leaders faced a terrible choice: confront the infiltrators directly or continue the deception while building defenses. They chose deception, hoping to buy time. That time ran out sooner than expected. On a Tuesday morning, power grids across 3 continents faltered simultaneously. Hospital emergency systems switched to backup power. Air traffic control lost. Primary communications. Financial networks crashed. Each failure lasted only minutes, a demonstration of capability rather than a full attack. The message was clear: surrender or face worse. An emergency global council convened within hours. For the first time in human history, national differences were set aside in the face of an existential threat. Operation Defiance was born, a unified response to the silent invasion. "They expect us to panic, to turn on each other," General Kang addressed the assembled military leaders. "Instead, we show unity they've never anticipated." While publicly, Earth's governments announced technical difficulties and promised quick resolutions, privately they activated plans developed during the weeks of silent preparation. Military units moved to hidden positions. Civilian manufacturing pivoted to defense production under cover of routine operations. The alien attachés were placed under surveillance but not confronted. "Let them think their plan worked," President Jin ordered. "Let them report back that Earth was vulnerable and disorganized." Professor Han worked tirelessly with a global team of scientists, analyzing the alien technology and developing countermeasures. They discovered the nanomachines communicated through quantum entanglement, impossible to block, but possible to detect. "We can't stop them from reporting," she told Director Kim, "but we can control what they see." Captain Choi's intelligence teams created elaborate illusions, fake command centers, simulated defense weaknesses, and false deployment patterns, all designed to mislead the watching eyes of the Concordat. The first real human victory came when a team led by Dr. Min isolated a captured nanomachine cluster and reversed its programming. These repurposed machines became Earth's eyes inside the alien network. "They're gathering their fleet," Dr. Min reported after the first successful infiltration. 7 light days out and moving into position. "How many ships?" Commander Lee asked. 12 large vessels, hundreds of smaller craft." The room fell silent. Earth had nothing that could match such firepower. "They don't expect resistance," General Kang said finally. "That's our only advantage." As the alien fleet approached, Earth maintained its deception. Countries appeared to bicker over responses to the infrastructure failures. Military forces made visible but meaningless movements, while the real preparations happened in secret facilities, built since first contact. Professor Han rarely left her laboratory now. She had discovered something critical about the alien technology. For all its advancement, it followed predictable patterns. "They haven't faced real opposition in thousands of years," she explained to President Jin. "Their systems are optimized for efficiency, not adaptability." On the final night before the expected attack, people across Earth went about their normal lives unaware of what approached. In hidden bunkers and secret facilities, humanity's defenders made final preparations. "They think they're hunting sheep," General Kang told his commanders. "They're about to discover wolves." As dawn broke over the Pacific, sensors detected the first Concordat warships entering Earth's atmosphere. The silent invasion was about to become very loud indeed. The attack came at dawn. Concordat warships appeared suddenly in Earth's atmosphere, their hulls gleaming like polished silver against the morning sky. They positioned themselves over major military installations with precision that spoke of careful planning. For 3 heartbeats they hung motionless. Then the sky burned. Energy beams lanced downward, carving molten craters where missile silos and command centers had stood moments before. Naval bases erupted in columns of steam as vessels were vaporized. At anchor, airfields became lakes of fire. In the primary war room deep beneath the mountains, Admiral Bay watched tactical displays with a face carved from stone. Around her, officers tracked the destruction of what appeared to be humanity's primary defenses. "All targets hit as predicted," reported a junior officer, voice trembling. Admiral Bay nodded once. They followed the trail of breadcrumbs perfectly. For weeks, Earth had presented the illusion of conventional military strength concentrated at these now destroyed locations. The real defense network, Base Echo, remained hidden, distributed across facilities the Concordate's spying nanomachines had never detected. Status of Echo network, Admiral Bay asked. 100% operational. The enemy shows no indication they're aware of our true positions. Admiral Bay allowed herself the smallest smile. Begin Protocol Thunderbolt. Across the globe, hidden beneath oceans, mountains, and Arctic ice, humanity's actual defense grid awakened. The command activated hundreds of orbital platforms disguised as communications satellites and weather monitors. The Concordate ships, positioning for their second wave of attacks, never detected the threat until electromagnetic pulses washed over their formations. Ship after ship reported sudden system failures as carefully targeted EMP bursts, derived from Professor Han's research into alien technology, disrupted their targeting and navigation systems. "They're blind," announced the tactical officer. "Estimated duration 3 minutes. "That's all we need," Admiral Bay said. "All units execute counterattack." From hidden hangars emerged Earth's response, fighters and interceptors launching in perfect coordination. From underwater bases rose missiles aimed not to destroy the alien vessels, but to disable their propulsion systems. The Concordate forces, expecting to face a primitive and disorganized resistance, found themselves under attack from directions their intelligence had never revealed. Their first response was confusion. Their second was panic. "They've never faced this," Admiral Bay observed as she watched the tactical display. "They expect submission, not strategy." A Concordate command ship, larger than the others, attempted to coordinate a response. Before it could establish control, a squadron led by Captain Nam executed a maneuver that would have been suicidal against human opponents, flying directly at the command vessel's sensors in tight formation before breaking apart at the last possible second. The alien targeting systems, designed to track conventional attack patterns, failed to resolve the multiple small targets diverging at extreme angles. Captain Nam's voice crackled over the comm. "Packages delivered." Moments later, directed explosives attached to the command ship's communication array detonated. The massive vessel wasn't destroyed, but it was now deaf and mute, unable to coordinate the increasingly chaotic alien response. Not everything went according to plan. 3 defense platforms were discovered and destroyed. A hidden base in the Arctic was hit when its power signature spiked during weapons launch. Thousands of defenders died in these strikes, but for every loss, humanity inflicted damage in return. Earth's weapons were less advanced, but deployed with a creativity the Concordate had never encountered. Missiles carried payloads designed by Professor Han to target specific weaknesses her team had identified in alien systems. Fighter pilots flew patterns that exploited gaps in Concordate sensor technology. By the second day of battle, the conflict had settled into a grim pattern. The Concordate held orbital superiority with their larger vessels, raining destruction on targets they could identify. Earth's forces controlled the atmospheric engagement, preventing the aliens from establishing ground presence. In a secure facility, Professor Han worked frantically with her team to exploit a captured Concordate fighter. "The neural interface is the key," she told Dr. Min as they examined the alien control systems. "They don't use manual controls. Everything is thought-directed." "Can we hack it?" Dr. Min asked. Professor Han's eyes showed both exhaustion and determination. "We already have." On the third day, the Concordate launched what they clearly intended as a decisive strike. They positioned their remaining functional vessels in a hemisphere formation above Earth's largest population centers. The message was clear: surrender or face civilian casualties on an unprecedented scale. Admiral Bay received the transmission in the war room. The alien commander, speaking through a translator device, demanded immediate capitulation. "Your resistance is impressive but futile," the alien voice stated. "Further defiance will force us to demonstrate power you cannot comprehend." Admiral Bay's response was to activate the final phase of Protocol Thunderbolt, the deployment of Professor Han's neural interface override. The signal, broadcast from Earth's remaining satellites, targeted the thought control systems of the Concordate vessels. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. The war room held its collective breath. Then, one by one, Concordate ships began to drift out of formation. Some powered down completely, others fired weapons at empty sky. The neural interface, the system the aliens relied on for its speed and precision, had become their greatest vulnerability. Not all ships were affected. Some had shielding that blocked the signal. Others had commanders who somehow resisted the interface disruption. These remaining vessels, recognizing the battle was lost, began emergency maneuvers to break orbit. Earth's defense forces let them go. They had neither the means nor the desire to pursue the retreating aliens into deep space. In the aftermath, Admiral Bay stood before the Emergency Council of Earth's leaders. Her uniform was wrinkled from 3 days without rest, but her posture remained perfect. "We've won this battle," she reported, "but not the war." "Will they return?" President Jin asked. "Without question," Admiral Bay replied. "And in greater numbers. We hurt them badly, but we've only faced a fraction of their true strength." The council chamber fell silent as the implications settled over everyone present. They had bloodied the nose of a galactic power. There would be consequences. "Then we have work to do," President Jin said finally. "Because next time, we'll need to do more than just defend." The world changed after the battle. Cities bore scars from orbital strikes. Memorial services honored the fallen. But something else had changed too. A new sense of unity and purpose spread across Earth. Old enemies became allies against a common threat that made human conflict seem small and petty. President Yoon addressed the Global Defense Council from Seoul, her face displayed on screens to representatives from every nation. The room, once a luxury hotel ballroom, now served as humanity's war room. Maps and tactical displays covered walls where artwork had once hung. "We cannot wait for them to return," she said, her voice firm. "The Concordat will not make the same mistakes twice. If we only defend, we will lose." General Kang stood and faced the assembly. "Our intelligence suggests we have 6 months at most before they return with overwhelming force. We must use this time wisely." The plan was ambitious beyond anything humanity had attempted before. Every shipyard, factory, and research lab shifted to wartime production. Civilian spacecraft were stripped down and rebuilt as warships. Engineers worked in shifts around the clock. Dr. Ju led the technology division, a team of scientists dedicated to understanding the alien technology from captured vessels. She stood in her laboratory, staring at the neural interface recovered from a downed Concordat fighter. The device was beautiful in its complexity, curves of unknown metal that seemed to flow like frozen water. "They're at least a century ahead of us," she told her team, "maybe more. But they've grown complacent. They build perfect weapons, but forget that weapons are only as good as the strategies behind them." Progress came in breakthroughs and setbacks. The first attempt to adapt Concordat propulsion technology to a human vessel ended with an explosion that claimed 3 lives. Dr. Ju attended each funeral, carrying the weight of their sacrifice. Yet for every failure came success. "Professor?" Han's team developed shields that could withstand Concordat energy weapons for brief periods. Engineers created weapons that targeted the specific weaknesses identified in alien systems. The greatest challenge was space combat. Humans had never fought beyond Earth's atmosphere, while the Concordat had millennia of experience. Admiral Bay addressed this by establishing the Space Combat Academy, where pilots trained in simulators, built using data from the first battle. "Forget everything you know about atmospheric flight," she told the first class of recruits. "Space has different rules, no air resistance, no up or down. The Concordat fights with precision and patterns. We will fight with creativity and unpredictability." 6 months after repelling the invasion, Earth launched its first real warship. The HSS Vengeance had begun life as a Mars supply freighter. Now it bristled with weapons and carried a crew of 200. Admiral Bay stood on the bridge as the massive vessel left Earth orbit. "Set course for the Concordat outpost at Proxima Centauri," she ordered. "Maximum speed." The human fleet was small, just 17 converted vessels, but it carried humanity's determination. They traveled using a combination of human propulsion technology and adapted alien systems. The journey took 3 weeks instead of decades. The Concordat outpost orbited Proxima Centauri b, a small rocky planet. The aliens had established a listening post, not expecting any threat from the supposedly contained humans. They detected the approaching fleet too late to mount an effective defense. The battle was brief but decisive. The outpost fell within hours. As human forces secured the station, Lieutenant Ryu made a discovery that changed everything. The station contained a complete archive of Concordat records spanning 50,000 years. A brilliant cryptographer, Lieutenant Ryu worked day and night to break the alien encryption. When she finally succeeded, she requested an immediate meeting with Admiral Bay. "They've been doing this forever," she explained, displaying translated documents on the screen. "They find developing species, study them, then begin a process they call preparation, destabilizing potential threats before formal contact." "Preparation?" Admiral Bay asked. "Infiltration, resource manipulation, sometimes engineered conflicts to weaken strong nations." Lieutenant Ryu brought up another document. "They've done this to 26 other species before us, all now serve as junior members of the Concordat. More disturbing were the records of species who had resisted, worlds quarantined, civilizations bombed back to pre-industrial states, some simply listed as pacified with no further explanation. We're the first to fight back effectively in over 10,000 years, Lieutenant Ryu concluded. As the fleet prepared to return to Earth with their captured data, something unexpected happened. A transmission reached them, heavily encrypted but not in Concordat code. Lieutenant Ryu worked frantically to decode it. "It's from someone called Commander O," she finally announced. "He claims to represent the Resistance." The message revealed a truth the Concordat had hidden for millennia. Many species under their control maintained secret resistance movements, waiting for an opportunity to break free. They had watched humanity's defense of Earth with hope. "We are not alone in our fight," Admiral Bay told her officers after verifying the message. "There are allies waiting throughout Concordat space." The return journey gave time for planning. Lieutenant Ryu continued decoding archives that revealed Concordat fleet movements, defense systems, and, most importantly, weaknesses. The knowledge would prove invaluable in the coming conflict. When the fleet arrived at Earth, they found a planet transformed. Orbital defense platforms now circled the globe. The makeshift vessels that had fought the first battle had been replaced by purpose-built warships incorporating Concordat technology. Admiral Bay presented her findings to the Global Defense Council. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. They weren't just fighting for Earth's freedom, they had become the spark for a potential galactic revolution. President Yoon rose from her seat after the presentation concluded. The Concordat believed they found another species to control. Instead, they found the one that will break their cycle of domination. Earth's fleet grew quickly as more ships were completed. Training intensified as humanity prepared not just to defend their world, but to take the fight deep into Concordat territory. 3 months later, when Concordat sensors detected a massive human fleet approaching their core worlds, their leaders could not comprehend what they were seeing. In their 50,000-year history, no prepared species had ever mounted an offensive against them. They were about to learn that humans were unlike any species they had encountered before. The grand assembly chamber of the Galactic Concordat had never hosted beings like these before. Humans walked its sacred halls not as supplicants or new subjects, but as equals demanding recognition. President Yoon entered first, followed by Admiral Bay and representatives from Earth's United Nations. Behind them came allies from a dozen worlds, species that had lived under Concordat rule for centuries until humanity's rebellion sparked their own. The chamber itself was breathtaking, a vast dome with walls that seemed to contain moving galaxies. The Concordat Council members sat on elevated platforms, looking down at the assembled delegations. For millennia, this arrangement had reinforced their dominance. Today, it failed to intimidate. "This council is called to order," announced Elder Moon, the oldest of the Concordat leaders. His skin shimmered with age, nearly translucent under the chamber's light. "We gather to address the situation regarding Earth and the associated disturbances." President Yoon stepped forward. Though physically small compared to many alien representatives, her voice carried clearly throughout the chamber. "We come not as supplicants but as representatives of a free world," she began. "Earth will not accept subordinate status within your concordat, nor will we allow the continued suppression of other species." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Such directness violated all protocol. Elder Moon's 3 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of agitation. "Your civilization is barely 10,000 years old," he replied, voice straining for patience. "You cannot comprehend the complexities of galactic governance. The Concordat has maintained order for 50 millennia." Admiral Bay stepped forward to stand beside President Yoon. The battle scars on her uniform remained unrepaired, a deliberate reminder of what had brought them here. "Perhaps that is precisely why we see what you cannot," she said. "Your civilization has grown stagnant through unchallenged rule. You've forgotten how to adapt. The journey to this moment had been paid for in blood. After discovering the truth about the Concordat from the captured outpost, humanity had launched a daring campaign. Their fleet, augmented by resistance forces from other worlds, had struck key Concordat facilities across multiple star systems. They hadn't won through superior technology. The Concordat still held that advantage. They had won through unpredictability, adaptation, and a willingness to try strategies the Concordat considered irrational. Where Concordat commanders followed optimal battle algorithms refined over millennia, human captains made intuitive leaps that no algorithm could predict. The most decisive battle had come at Proxima Station, the Concordat's main military hub, in Earth's sector. Admiral Bay had led a fleet that should have had no chance against the station's defenses. Instead of direct assault, they had used the gravity well of a nearby gas giant to slingshot asteroids as weapons, while their main fleet approached from an unexpected vector. The victory had forced the Concordat to the negotiating table for the first time in recorded history. Now in the council chamber, debate raged between Concordat factions. Some, like Elder Moon, insisted on maintaining the old order. Others, led by a younger councillor named Shin, argued for a new approach. "We have grown complacent," Councillor Shin admitted, rising from his seat. "These humans have accomplished in months what our strategic models deemed impossible. Perhaps there is wisdom we have forgotten." Over the following days, negotiations continued. The humans refused to back down from their core demands: recognition as equals, representation for all species, and an end to the preparation of developing civilizations. In private sessions, Admiral Bay met with military leaders from various Concordat worlds. Some came to assess this new threat. Others came seeking alliance. The most surprising was Commander O, not a human as they had assumed from the name, but a member of the Tellurian species who had been among the first to contact Earth's fleet in secret. "Your resistance gave us courage," Commander O told. "Admiral Bay, my people have waited 12,000 years for this moment." On the 5th day, a breakthrough came when scientists from Earth and several Concordat worlds held a joint session. Dr. Ju presented humanity's adaptations of Concordat technology, modifications that sometimes sacrificed efficiency for creativity. Many Concordat scientists were shocked to see familiar systems used in ways they had never considered. "You approach problems differently," one senior Concordat researcher admitted, "without the burden of knowing what cannot be done." By the 2nd week, the structure of a new agreement began to take shape. Not all Concordat species embraced change. Several withdrew from the proceedings in protest. But momentum had shifted toward reform. The new Galactic Charter established a council where all species held equal votes. The practice of preparing developing worlds was explicitly forbidden. Instead, a non-interference policy would allow species to develop naturally until they achieved interstellar travel, at which point contact would be made openly. When the final document was ready, President Yoon and Elder Moon signed first, followed by representatives from 32 worlds. The document would later be known simply as the Human Accord, a testament to the species that had broken a cycle of domination spanning geological timescales. As Earth's delegation prepared to return home, Admiral Bay found a quiet moment to stand at a viewing window overlooking the Concordat homeworld. The planet's 3 moons hung in perfect alignment, a rare event that occurred once every 800 years. President Yoon joined her, watching the moons in silence before, Speaking. They still fear us, she observed. Good, replied the Admiral. Fear can become respect when tempered with justice. And for the first time in 50,000 years, President Yoon added, the stars know both. Across the galaxy, news of the new order spread. On countless worlds, beings who had known only submission looked up at their skies with something long forgotten, hope. The species that the Concordat had dismissed as too violent, too unpredictable, too human, had changed everything. The universe would never be the same.